We're back with Raul and Holly, Team Rising in the House. So we talked a little bit about the horse race and some of the debate dynamics, but we also wanted to dig into a couple of the issues that may be center stage. And one of them in particular is healthcare, right? You've got Sanders on stage tonight. He's, of course, been the leader in terms of Medicare for all. You've got Biden and Harris on stage tomorrow night. Biden has really come out directly sort of against Medicare for all, even using what I would say are some sort of Republican talking points to bash Medicare for all. And you have Harris, who was a co-sponsor of Sanders' Medicare for All legislation, but now has her own sort of watered-down
10-year plan
version.
Right.
What do you make of all this, Holly?
I think it's smart to talk about it because this is a big vulnerability for Republicans. We failed to get anything done on this when we had the opportunity, so it's good to be talking about it. I just am not sure if I think presenting your plan forward and kind of letting the voters decide if they like it, but this attacking each other, I don't know how that's going to play out. But it's definitely something that needs to be talked about. It's an issue that people care very much about. So. But they do care about the price tag too, so it's a big challenge.
One thing I really don't understand. I keep saying this on the show, but I don't understand why Bernie lets so many of the other candidates get away with basically grifting onto his plan. If we remember back in 2016 when Trump was talking about immigration, I mean he was ridiculing Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, two people who, by the way, are like pretty good on immigration policy, especially Ted Cruz, and he was just saying no, like I'm the only one who's the true believer. That is what set him apart. Do you think he should do that tonight? Do you think he should be like, look, ultimately, you're all on this stage with me?
Yeah. No, I don't think he should. Yeah. I mean, I think to your point, you pointed it out. He was the original of the idea. I think what's happening though is that there is a fight, if you will, for the progressive part of the party to kind of level you out and make you not so centrist or populist or right. And so I think that's what's happening. And I don't think he will do that tonight. And I don't think it helps him if he does.
That's interesting.
Do you think, Holly, that we'll see sort of cross-night fireworks between? I mean, Bernie and Biden are still, kind of the two main leaders. They've had the two most distinctive, ideologically opposite ends of the spectrum on healthcare ideas. Do you think we're going to see questions trying to get Bernie to go after Biden and vice versa? Do you think Bernie's going to take that attack?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he knows that he knows that the others who are so similar to him are going to fade away, and that at the end it's probably. I mean, in the polling right now, they're neck and neck, right? They're the two leaders. So he knows who his real opponent is in this. He's not stupid, and I think he'll, depending on how the question is framed, he will definitely take his opportunity to distinguish himself from Biden and point out Biden's faults. For Biden, man, I'm so glad. If I were Biden, I'd be so glad that I was on the second night, because you have an opportunity to kind of reflect back on what they talked about the night before.
It's definitely an advantage.
It really is. So
I am sad that they're not doing the hand-raising questions, because they're the most revealing ones to me.
Yeah. They can be.
On immigration, on healthcare. I mean,
you don't get to BS.
There's no BS. It's just like the hands up or it's not, and that is so clarifying. So a little fuzzy on the rules there. I do.
We need to ask more raising hands questions on this show.
Actually, you should. You're like, all right, everybody, raise your hand. Yeah. I'm going to start doing that. So I wonder, Raul, what is it that Bernie can do, or any of the candidates can do, to set more litmus tests? Julian Castro shifted this entire debate by just saying, raise your hand if you think you should decriminalize border crossings. Every single hand shot up. How is it that you can set a litmus test tonight in this debate, if you're one of these candidates?
You ask the question, take over and take over. Well, no, not even that. I can take over as a moderator and say, which one of you think, what's your idea on a particual issue? If you want to go ahead.
I thought it was brilliant. It was a brilliant move.
And I think that's how Biden established. I mean, God,
Bernie,
doing that. I think that's how Bernie establishes his, kind of puts his name on his plan, right? Like, how many of you think this? How many of you think that?
Right.
Force them to raise their hand on your issue that you branded and you created.
And you become the moderator at that point.
Another thing I want to get into is trade, something we actually don't talk that much about. Elizabeth Warren out with the new plan called Trade on Our Terms. In many ways, it's actually much farther than President Trump has gone in practice, although he spoke a lot about this in his administration.
It's much more thoughtful, let's say. It's well articulated.
Practically, this is what it would be. I wonder, Raul, where do you think the party is still on trade? We have not seen Joe Biden account for NAFTA, for TPP, for any of these. Yeah, I mean, he probably does.
He does.
I don't know if he's talked about NAFTA in particular, but TPP and all these other trade agreements that he helped craft, voted for in the United States Senate. Do you think he's going to come out and repudiate some of his own record or acknowledge some of the problems?
I think what he should do is acknowledge that there were some of the problems. I was at the DNC when we were talking about TPP, and the president wanted to get this done. I think at the end of the day, trade is an important aspect for this country because it creates jobs. It also helps us with humanitarian efforts in other countries and whatnot. And so I think if he's smart, he'll say maybe there's some parts of TPP or whatever trade agreement we are at that might not work, but there are some aspects that are good. But I do think that trade is an important issue, and I mentioned this earlier, particularly in Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the farmers. I mean, just recently they gave I don't know how many billions of dollars to the farmers of Iowa to offset the soybean. Sales that they weren't having because of the tariffs that the president put on
Well, it's
China.
so strange to me, Holly, because the only reason Donald Trump is president is trade and immigration. Right. Those two issues are what put him in the Oval Office.
Right.
How many times do you hear Democrats talking about trade? Elizabeth Warren's the only person who's talking about trade.
Yeah, we really don't. And it would be smart. I mean, Democrats need to take this opportunity now to kind of jump on the trade because we are still in negotiations with some of these countries, and we're feeling it. The farmers are feeling it. A lot of manufacturers are feeling it. So now's the time to talk about it because by the time we get to the general election, it's all going to be wrapped up and done. And then it's not going to be an issue anymore. So if they really want to set themselves apart and attack the president and show that they've got some sophistication on this issue, they need to do it now.
And that's what Elizabeth Warren is doing, and it's smart, which is I would be even more forceful than Donald Trump.
And
that's brilliant.
This is a blind spot that I think that both party establishments, but let's focus on the Democrats on our own team for a moment here, have really had a blind spot on how important and how emotionally resonant this issue of trade is, especially in the industrial Midwest. Because, I mean, when I lived in Ohio, you go up and down the Ohio River, and it is town after town after town that is devastated by deindustrialization. And we've had years of Democratic candidates basically coming to town, promising them the sun and the moon, and then when they get into office, they don't do anything. Or worse, I mean, with Barack Obama, he actively went after a brand new great big trade deal that was essentially written by corporate interests, and they felt like, here we go again.
I just don't understand it because, I mean, you want to talk with Baltimore, we've been talking about it. Why do you think Baltimore is the way it is? Because the port of Baltimore is not doing well, but the port of Guangzhou is doing just fine. And I think that, if anything, we're the ones who built the port. And it's just interesting that I don't see more of this talk from the Democratic. Do you think that they should talk a bit more about China? That's something I wonder, because all of them, I think majority of them raise their hands that China is the biggest threat to the United States, but I don't hear them talk about it nearly as much as President Trump did. It resonates in these voters that you have to win back.
Yeah. No, I mean, to Crystal's point, I think absolutely we do need to talk about it. I mean, this is an important issue. I mean, it's evident, again, with the tariffs that the president has put on China, that it affects our country. It affects our GDP. It affects people's lives. It affects, people's ability to put food on the table and to raise their kids and have a family and whatnot. So it's an important issue, and it comes down to everything. In my opinion, comes back down to the economics, the economy. So we need to talk about China and how is that going to affect our economy? How is that going to affect the Midwest voter? How is that going to affect somebody in New Mexico or along the Mexico borders if you put up a border wall and don't allow trade to come back and forth between the countries, or Canada for that matter?
Well, and Holly, to your point, I think the critique, because it's hard to make the critique if you also support some of the forceful rhetoric and approach to China. It's hard to make that critique, but I think the way that you do it is by basically pointing out the president's ineffectiveness. They still haven't gotten the NAFTA 2.0 thing signed, sealed, and delivered, as you're pointing out. And China, it's still a mess. We haven't gotten anything there either.
They need to strike now, because it will get done. I mean, I think the president and his team right now are just kind of waiting them out to try and get the best deal. But
I think the Chinese are waiting this president out.
Well, but
they're going to try.
Well, they're trying, but they're both
suffering.
waiting each other out. But my point is that at any time we could sign a deal and be done with it.
Right.
So I think I appreciate the president doing this. I mean, it's hard, but he's holding the line, and he's going to take it as far as he can to get the best deal that we can. We will have a deal.
I hope
remarkable to watch the way that Republicans have totally changed on this issue.
It's a great thing.
Lady and gent, great to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow on Rising, Hill TV's Jamal Simmons. He's going to be in Detroit for the big debate. We'll get his perspective on the first night and thoughts on the second.
And host of The Young Turks, The Damage Report, John Iadarola, will join us. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Hill TV Live. We make sure to post behind-the-scenes photos and all sorts of other great content you don't want to miss, including sneak peeks at upcoming interviews and more, Sagar. And very important, remember to subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel and click the bell so you know when we post new stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.